It's time to blow up the Celtics. Jeff Green, Keith Bogans, and Phil Pressey to the Pistons for Josh Harrelson, Charlie Villanueva, and Greg Monroe. But we're not going to hold on to a couple of those pieces, as I don't really want Greg Monroe on the team long term. We're going to flip Monroe and Josh Harrelson to the Rockets for Omer Asik, as well as Ryan Kelly, who was acquired from the Lakers earlier in the year. That essentially makes it a three-way trade, but we also have one more big move to make. Rondo and Jordan Crawford to the Magic for JAMEER Nelson, Etuan Moore, and a pair of first-round picks in the upcoming years. A big trade for the Celtics, a good trade for both teams. I believe I'll touch on them in a moment as we get closer towards the commentator, but check out the rotation here. I just said commentator, I mean commentary. Check out the rotation here. Nelson and a couple of other guys getting 30 minutes for the most part of the starters. I tried to even out the minutes to keep guys as happy as possible, but you see we get rid of a disgruntled Jordan Crawford, and that will help out the team chemistry. Avery Bradley is up for a contract extension at the end of the year. Now in real life you can only offer rookie level contract players contract extensions before the 31st of October, and then if you don't do it by then you have to wait till the offseason, until they restricted free agency. However, because it's 2K and they don't understand realism aspects of the NBA, they have it so you can re-sign these guys during the middle of the year, so we will take advantage of that. We're going to offer Avery Bradley a 3-year contract, and it's going to be worth, I believe, around $17.5 million. I end up offering him $5.67 mil per year. He accepts it. Probably wasn't the happiest about it, but we will take it. I think it's a fair price for a player of his caliber, at least in 2K. And now here we go. Heading into this next ballgame, we'll be going up against the New Orleans Pelicans, one of the new-look teams in the NBA this year. Not only do they have a new team, but they have a pretty new roster with a couple new players in Tyreke Evans and Drew Holiday. They acquired through free agency and trade, respectively. They also have a second-year Anthony Davis, who is a much-improved player, to go along with guys who are already there, like Eric Gordon and Ryan Anderson. But nonetheless, as we head into this ball game, I'm going to talk about a couple of the moves that I did make. So Jeff Green and Rajon Rondo were players that just had to go if we were going to blow it up as you guys wanted to in the video that I made a week ago, where I talked about blowing up the team, and or whether to blow up the team or whether to move forward and make a win now type of trade. But I ended up deciding to blow up the team based off of the feedback I got from you guys. So we had to trade our two best players, Rajon Rondo and Jeff Green. Green of the Pistons is a really nice fit. They've been looking to trade Monroe. They can move Josh Smith to the 4, Drummond can play the 5, and then Sullinger at the 3. That's a very nice combination. With Smith playing the 3 right now in real life, he has to take more outside jump shots, which is not his game. So it benefits the Pistons a lot. They used the Charlie Villanueva expiring contract to get rid of him, along with a trade asset in Greg Monroe. And Greg Monroe coming to the Celtics, I thought about keeping him, but I decided that I would rather have Omer Asik, just because Greg Monroe is a nice player. He's a fantastic player. He might have peaked already, kind of, at least statistically. Not because the stats are down this year, but just because I don't know exactly how he's going to get better outside of getting better in the defensive end in the near future. But we end up flipping Greg Monroe just because he's a similar player to Jared Sullinger. They're good rebounders, good outside shooters. They can face up and drive a little bit. I wouldn't use them as player comps, but they kind of do similar things well, and I don't think that would mix together. I think what Sullinger really needs to be complemented with is a good defensive big. Hey, I know a good defensive big that's on the trade market, Omer Asik. Let's flip Greg Monroe, a very good fit for Dwight Howard and the Houston Rockets, to the Rockets for Omer Asik, their defensive disgruntled big who is on the trade market and very available. So yeah, we probably could have gotten more from the Rockets for Omer Asik based off how he's rated in this game. But I really like what Omer Asik does for the team. He makes us a much better defensive team. He's exactly what I want out of a center. And, he's a good rim-protecting defensive anchor. Now, maybe, obviously, we'd like a little bit better of a center in the long term, but for now, he provides some stability with the bigs. Him and Sullinger could be a nice combination for years to come. Now, we'll see if we try to upgrade at center position 3 or 4 years down the road. But for now, we have a stable piece who could become a trade asset in a couple years, who knows. But nonetheless, he's not exactly a young guy. He's 27 years old, so he's not exactly this young guy we're going to try and develop. He pretty much is what he is. But if he is what he is right now in 3 years, that could be a big piece towards a championship team. So anyway, those are pretty much that trade, or that's pretty much that trade. We end up flipping Jeff Green essentially for Omer Asik, a trade that had been rumored in real life, although we do it in a little bit different of a way. It becomes essentially a 3-way trade because, hey, guess what? 2K doesn't have 3-way trades in this game anymore. I don't know why, but they just don't, because it's very frustrating how much lack of emphasis they put on their association and MyGM modes, which makes sense because it's a hard mode to sell. It's not something you can advertise really, so it is what it is. But nonetheless, we are inching towards the end of the first half here. I'm going to talk about the Rajon Rondo trade in the second half, but first we have a player interview coming up.
You come out after the halftime. What do you think is going to be the most important thing for the team to do?
We have to continue to get stops and offensively take care of the ball. Myself in particular, careless turnovers shouldn't happen, and you know it's part of the game. But I just have to value the ball a little more.
Jameer, thank you. Always thinking like a point guard guy.
So for those who are not paying attention to the gameplay, it is a 1-point ball game at the half. It's extended to a 4-point ball game as the Celtics have the lead, but there's an Anthony Davis alley to cut it back down to 2. We have a close game going on so far. But let's get into the Rajon Rondo trade. We traded Rajon Rondo and Jordan Crawford to the Magic for 2 first-round picks, Y1 Moore and JAMEER Nelson. Now, JAMEER Nelson's an expiring contract that will give us some cap space that we might look to roll over into the 2015 free agent class, but nonetheless, that'll give us some more flexibility moving forward. Y1 Moore is there because if we had just traded Jordan Crawford and Rajon Rondo to them, they would have had too many players, and this game isn't smart enough to realize they can just waive a player like that. So instead, we had to take on Y1 Moore's 1-year contract, but it's a veteran's minimum contract, and he's actually a player that I'm a pretty big fan of in real life. I wouldn't say like I think he's really good or anything, but when he was in Boston on the Celtics during the lockout season, I thought he was pretty talented, and I was sad to see him get traded to the Rockets in the sign and trade for Courtney Lee. But nonetheless, he ended up on the Orlando Magic, has found himself not a nice home, I would say, but he's kind of figured out his role in the NBA. He'd be a good 4th or 5th guard off the bench. Put up some stats early in the year last year. Has not done so much this year, but nonetheless, it is what it is. So we trade Jordan Crawford, and I'll talk about Jordan Crawford too because he's been a huge part of the Celtics in real life this year, and a player that I would love for the Celtics to keep moving forward if he continues to play at the level that he's playing at right now, because he does so much for that offense. And I think him and Rondo could play well together just because Crawford has that experience playing shooting guard in the past, but also because in Brad Stevens' system, it's really good to have secondary ball handlers on the floor, and if you got a guy like Jordan Crawford playing the shooting guard position, that's a really nice secondary ball handler. I just think he fits in their system really well, so I'd love to see the Celtics keep him moving forward, but in this association, in this MyGM, whatever you want to call it, he just was not a fit. He was disgruntled, he wasn't happy with his playing time, he wanted to be a starter, we just didn't have room for him, and we decided to take his trade value and throw it into the Rondo trade to help us acquire that 2nd first-round draft pick, which we will inevitably turn into a player that will do a lot more for us than what Jordan Crawford could have done for us moving forward. So, we also traded Rajon Rondo, a player that, bona fide best player on the team, had to trade him if we were going to blow this thing up. So we did what we had to do, we acquired 2 first-round picks for him. I think that's a pretty fair trade. In real life, they might try to get 3 first-round picks for him. I'd be surprised if a team offered that much. But, in this game, getting 2 first-round picks for him, I'm very fine with that. And for the Magic, it's a good fit, I believe, because they're kind of that young group of players that might just be a superstar away from really being something special. So that's pretty much that. I pretty much spent this entire commentary talking about the trades, but we do have 5 minutes left in a very tight game right here. That 3-pointer cuts it down to 4. Or cuts the lead down to 3, I should say, but it's back up to 5 here. Jrue Holiday gets blocked by JAMEER Nelson, but gets his own rebound and puts it back in. And the lead is up to 7 for the New Orleans Pelicans. And now we're going to take over here, down by 9. Avery Bradley bringing it up, gives it to Marshawn Brooks. Brooks is not a player that has played a lot in real life, but he's been pretty effective for us, and this MyGM could be a player I'll look to keep moving forward. He's pretty young too, he could be a nice piece, but we'll see what happens. Really just be a nice scoring option off the bench. I don't see him as a starter or anything, but Avery Bradley dribbling in, gives it to Jared Sullinger, up fakes, and then puts it in. Sullinger has performed so well for us in this MyGM season so far. I'm really looking forward to having him on the team for the future. Jrue Holiday with the ball, giving it to Eric Gordon, and Eric Gordon splashing that 3. That makes an 11-point game with under a minute to play, and that would pretty much be the dagger. We have little to no hope moving forward, but Ashik puts that one in right there, cut the lead back down to 9. And we're going to keep this competitive towards the end. We'll fall by 9 points. 93-84 is your final score. We take another loss. That's okay. We've kind of gone the tanking route, so losses are not, all that devastating anymore. We're not fighting for playoff positioning. We don't really care about winning at this point. But anyway, that's pretty much going to do it. We have one more player interview coming up, and then we'll get into the box score.
Tyreek, what was the focus on strategy for this team coming into tonight's game?
Playing hard, we had a meeting today as a team, and we just wanted to come in here and play hard with energy. That's where it starts from, and we did a great job that tonight.
Tyreek, thank you. Kevin, amazing what can happen when you play hard.
Alright, before we wrap up this commentary, I do want to touch on a couple things that I did not get to during the video. First off, I apologize for not having this series up in about a week. My fault, I've been slacking a little bit. I had a lot of work going on at school this week. But I should be putting out more and more of these videos, especially over the next couple of weeks while I'm on winter break. My goal is to be at the end of the off season by the time I go back to school, which is the next 2 weeks. And ideally, I could probably do it a lot quicker. So that's the goal right now. We're going to keep doing that moving forward. I also want to apologize for having no transitions during or in between these clips during this video, but having some editing software problems. Hopefully we'll have that fixed soon. And also, this roster is certainly not the finalized roster we're going to have moving forward into the offseason. There are going to be more moves to come. Now, I've not made any moves, but I do plan on making moves. We have Courtney Lee, Brandon Bass, Jameer Nelson, Chris Humphries, players like that who could be moved, good role players that could help contending teams, but we'll see. Nonetheless, that's pretty much going to do it for me, guys, so I want to thank you guys for watching. Hope you did enjoy. Those I'm out. Peace.